Hello everyone, it is me Pui, and I am back from the dead with something completely different. Do you want to play the modern format? Do you crave explosive, degenerate games of Magic? Do you want to play a tier modern deck, but you've already sold your first kidney for a Nintendo Switch, and you've been told that selling the other one is a bad idea? Well then hang on to your hats, folks, because Mama Pui's cooked up something good. In case you haven't read the title, we're talking about a Glimpse of Tomorrow combo deck that can be built for just $150 or less and is easily upgradable. Glimpse of Tomorrow is a suspend sorcery with a mana value of 0 due to its lack of mana cost. It takes all the permanents on your field, including lands and tokens, and shuffles them back into your deck. Then it takes that many cards off the top of your deck and spits them right back out on the field. No need to fret with the suspend though. Since the mana value is 0, we can take advantage of cascade spells and a deck with no 1 or 2 drops to reliably cast Glimpse for 3 mana. Combined with token producers like Colony Garden and Wave Sifter, the plan is to fill the board with lands and tokens, then cascade into a 5 or 7 card Glimpse as early as turn 3. This combo is the backbone of a top tier modern deck. These decks usually are Teamer or 4-color, using Shardless Agent and Violent Outburst as cascaders, and they usually take one of 2 approaches, Big Boys or Elementals. Thing is, the backbone of the Glimpse deck is super cheap, but the Big Boys and the Elementals are the expensive part, as well as Violent Outburst. Instead, we'll be glimpsing in a Banshell using Ardent Plea and a Azorius Cascade enchantment for half the price of Outburst. We take an explosive multi-Glimpse approach that's a blast to play. Don't take my word for it though, let's get into the deck tech. The deck skeleton starts off with 4 copies of Shardless Agent and 4 of Ardent Plea. These are the undisputed backbone of the game plan, and I'll often mulligan to as low as 4 cards in order to make sure I have one. They get our Glimpse, and from there we usually win if we have 5 or more permanents on the field on resolution. To get permanents on the field quickly, we have the aforementioned Wave Sifter and Colony Garden, as well as Chancellor of the Forge and Leyline of Sanctity. Chancellor is usually how we close out the game, as we eventually get enough creatures to make a slew of hasty goblins. Leyline is one of the biggest expensive cards in our deck, but it makes up for its toll by protecting us from one of our biggest threats, discard. Both Leyline and Chancellor leave a goodie on the field for free before the game even starts, making for better glimpses in the long run. Speaking of, the final card of our skeleton is a playset of the namesake itself. It is standard for the tier Glimpse deck to play only 3 copies, but we want the full 4 copies here for a couple of reasons. First, the card is dirt cheap, so why not play as many as possible? Second, we have no problem drawing them, as we play 2 copies of As Foretold as Glimpse Enablers 9 and 10. Even if you don't see these in your opening hand, you may glimpse into one later, which will let you use the one in your hand for a glimpse an additional time. This brings us to our third and final reason. Our Bant version is trying to glimpse as many times as possible off of a single 3-mana cascade. Our first way to do this is with the well-known Goblin Dark Dwellers. When these blind beasties enter the battlefield, they'll let us flash back a glimpse in our graveyard for free. This means that after making your plants, your clues, your goblins, and adding the mana from your new lands, you get to immediately glimpse again and keep that value train rolling. The second tool we'll be using is the new Aether Channeler from Dominaria United. The card itself is a versatile powerhouse, able to draw a card, make a bird token to add to our glimpse count, or bounce any non-land permanent on ETB. We're most interested in that last ability here, as both our Cascaders happen to be permanents. If our Glimpse hits both a Cascader and a Channeler, we can simply bounce the Cascader and recast it for yet another Glimpse. With all these tools, you can glimpse up to 8 times per game. After you successfully glimpse 2 or 3 times, you can usually pull off the win no problem. But how do we close out the game? After all, Violent Outburst isn't just a Cascade enabler, but it also gives +1/+0 to all your creatures. As a replacement, we play 2 copies of Flamekin Zealot, which gives +1/+1 and haste to everything when it enters. In all of your glimpsing, you're looking for both a Chancellor and a Flamekin at the same time, which creates a lethal barrage of threats both tall and wide. To round out our non-lands, the deck plays 2 Waker of Waves and 2 Touch of the Spirit Realm. Both serve as 2 drops for our curve, 1 for filtering and 1 for removal, and both are quite useful off a glimpse as well. Feel free to play with the quantities of these 2 cards based on your own taste and your expected meta. For our lands, we start off with 4 Colony Garden as both a green source and 2 bodies for our glimpse. From there, we move on to our Pain lands, 4 Adarkar Ruins and 4 Yavimaya Coast. They do ding us for quite a bit, but with Leyline for Bird and the speed of our games, this is rarely a problem. The life is also padded by 3 Broker's Hideout, one of our budget alternatives to fetch lands, new from New Capenna. These can get us any one of our 3 land types, as well as thin themselves out to decrease the chance of hitting too many lands off our glimpses. 2 islands, 2 plains, and 1 forest serve as our basics, and that rounds out the main board. Our side is super simple, but nonetheless packs some spice. Starting off, we play 4 Foundation Breaker, an easy way to get rid of Chalice on 0, Torkoal Orb, Grafdigger's Cage, or any other manner of artifact or enchantment that may block our combo. Next, we play 4 copies of Mystical Dispute as a way to disrupt counter magic, Teferi Time Raveler, and other combo decks. We play 2 Thrawn the Last Troll for any deck 2 controlling to possibly resolve a glimpse. And lastly, if we think our glimpse won't work out so well, we have our choice of 3 Crashing Footfalls and 2 Inevitable Betrayals to replace them as cascade targets. In testing this deck, I was shocked by how consistent and difficult to interact with it was. With as few as 5 permanents on the battlefield, we can usually glimpse multiple times and find the win that turn, if not the next. 5 is an easy barrier to cross with all the token producers the deck has, and Leyline in particular has been absolutely insane. The deck struggles a lot against Planeswalkers though, particularly Liliana of the Veil, Renin 6, and Teferi Time Raveler. With 3 colors to choose from and non-budget options you could try, I'm more than sure that there was some way to deal with these guys cleanly that I just didn't think of. Speaking of non-budget, let's talk about upgrades. Obviously, you could always just take the Glimpse Shell and get the cards from one of the lists online, but if you don't have all the pieces at once, you may want to find a good place to start. My recommendation is to invest in some fetches and shocks and triomes to splash red and black into the land base. This not only lets you actually cast your red cards and add Violent Outburst back over your Ardent Plea, but it also gives you access to the new Leyline Binding, a highly efficient piece of removal that's 100% Glimpse compatible. So, that's the deck. I hope you like it as much as I do, and I hope you like this video as well. If you want to see me maybe play the deck, be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments. Until then, I hope you enjoyed my little return, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye-bye.